Welcome to the A. Richard Newton Distinguished Innovator Lecture Series. We have a very special guest with us tonight. We'll be starting in just a moment as everybody comes in. Mark Cuban, it's thrilling to have you as a guest on the Newton Changemaker Series here at UC Berkeley. The objective is to keep it as interactive as possible with the students who are online. And just so you know, and as I mentioned, we have our course students online. There are about a little over 200 students who will be joining us on the webinar. In parallel, in Jarvis Auditorium, in the Raw Thrills Lounge, behind the Raw Thrills Lounge, where we normally have class on Tuesdays, we have people joining us to watch live. And then up at the Sutardja Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology, we have invited guests. So we have a wider audience. We also have for you a special introduction, followed by 2 questions from me. One is just my question, and the other one is actually something upvoted by the students, and then we'll open it up to the students. So it's a lot.
Perfect. Let's go.
Let me start first with a word from Richard Lyons, and you'll see him in just a second. I'm going to be sharing my screen.
It is my pleasure to introduce Mark Cuban as your keynote for the UC Berkeley Newton Changemaker Series. Mark is the co-founder, as you know, of Cost Plus Drugs and a noted entrepreneur, investor, and also television personality. Mark and I share a belief that the most successful entrepreneurs adhere to the motto, students always. He exemplifies this in the way he has overcome adversity and founded 3 timely new ventures. He changed the norms for managing sports teams as owner of the Dallas Mavericks. As part of the iconic show Shark Tank, he has been known as the shark seeking high return investments. Mark is currently focused on disrupting healthcare by increasing transparency and lowering pricing. Please give a warm UC Berkeley welcome to Mark Cuban.
That's a great intro. Thank you.
You have not met in person, I take it?
I have not, no.
Well, I hope you'll be here at some point because he is incredible and he was excited that you are going to be on campus. And he's been, I truly mean that, he has been the visionary behind a lot of our.
That'd be great. I've actually been on campus a couple of times for events. So yeah, but it's been a few years. That's why I wanted to come back.
I'm thrilled that you're here. So welcome.
Thank you.
Our theme this semester is on disrupting an industry. You are repeatedly disruptive. I felt the need to say that in all sorts of different ways. And in the spirit of that, disruption also requires adaptation. And I'm pivoting my initial question for you. I had wanted to talk about how you learn because it's incredible to me the number of different industries you've gone into. But I am pivoting on that based on news that we got this morning. And that is that the government announced Trump RX, a direct-to-market healthcare initiative, very reminiscent of how you all are disrupting healthcare with cost plus drugs. And I wanted to know from you and with the students, what do you think of the announcement and how would you coach your cost plus team on their next moves?
Well, the first thing I did was talk to the people I knew at HHS to confirm they weren't getting into the pharmacy business, that the point and the purpose of Trump RX was to be a central portal, if you will, for all the MFN deals that they're signing. So like you saw today from Pfizer, the CEO announcing that they're going to be selling their newer products in the future at the MFN prices. But so there'll be a link on the portal to their direct to consumer offering, which really doesn't affect us a whole lot at all. And the bigger point is, what if they did compete with us and where would we take it? We are so lean and mean and AI and technology driven that I'd welcome the competition. And more importantly, we publish our costs, we publish our markup, so they know exactly what price they have to beat if they're going to compete with us, and I know they can.
Is there, in a way, are you leaning into this a little bit? I mean, it seems like it's the best compliment is somebody copying.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't even see them copying us. There's a lot of pieces going on here. On one hand, you have to ask yourself, what are the goals of the participants, right? When you compete with somebody, you want to understand what their motivations are, why they're doing what they're doing. And obviously, this is a political environment where the president is trying to say it doesn't make sense to him, and he's right, that branded medications are sold in European countries for a lot less than they are here. And so he's trying to effectuate change. And I think this is a good first start for him. But when it's all said and done, when you look at all the processes behind everything that needs to be done by the manufacturers, we're still in really good shape, and we're prepared to be able to continue to price at only a 15% markup. And the second part, which is kind of not the same as the mission of everybody here, I'm not trying to maximize earnings or income. I'm trying to maximize impact. I've been blessed. I've made a lot of money. And when it's all said and done, if, the writing on the wall is Mark Cuban completely reimagined and redid and disrupted healthcare, that's going to be a whole lot more important to me than how much more or less did Mark Cuban leave when he died. And so I think that gives us just a huge advantage because, the whole pharmaceutical industry, and I think this applies to every industry and is important for kids to hear, the number one product that we all offer is trust. And when you look at healthcare in particular, people don't trust the financial element of healthcare. They may trust their doctors or their hospitals. And the way we define trust is trust equals a numerator of transparency and a denominator of self-interest. And so if you look at that equation, and it applies to every business, Cost Plus Drugs has been in business 3.5 years, shipping for 3.5 years. And we're still the only pharmaceutical or pharmacy, if you will, that publishes our entire price list. And on our price list, it includes our cost, and it also includes our markup, which is the self-interest part, the denominator, right? And our markup is always only 15%. And there's nobody that can afford to compete with us. And so that builds trust. And that trust allows us to really have grown. We're so far up and to the right and continue to be, because people trust us, but also important to that, we don't spend a nickel on marketing. No ads, no marketing at all, because we knew going in that if I saved you or your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, a friend, $2,000 a month on their cancer drug, you're going to tell everybody. If I save you $10 a month on your generic Cialis, you're going to tell your friends. And all that word of mouth is what allows us to compete no matter what the administration comes up with.
I think that's incredible learning. I mean, not everybody here listening is totally into healthcare. Maybe that seems like to them because of age. But what you just talked about is applicable no matter what industry. For our second question, I actually asked the students if they would choose the question. And so let me share what they said. I had 8 different questions for them to choose from, and there was a tie. So actually, you get to choose between what skills would you advise students to learn now to be competitive, and how should you use those as they approach the job market? Or what makes you say yes to a meeting, a pitch, or to offering advice?
So let's start with number one. Obviously, it's applicable and things are changing so rapidly. I think historically, going back to the days when I was in college, kids tend to look for the job in the biggest company that pays the most amount of money. In an AI world, that's changing rapidly. You all are learning AI, you're living AI, you're using it, more and more and more on a daily basis. But when it comes to finding a job, bigger companies, they're looking to get smaller and use AI to become more efficient and hire fewer people. And that's creating a real disconnect in the workforce. And I think the change, and I've said this to my kids, I've said it to other groups I've talked to, don't look for the jobs in the biggest companies, look for the jobs in the small to medium-sized companies, because you can have greater impact, but more importantly, they don't know what to do with AI. When it's all said and done, there's going to be 2 types of companies in this country. Those who are great at AI and those who went out of business who got acquired because they weren't. And so going to a smaller to medium-sized business, if you have even basic, Python coding skills or can learn, you're going to have the opportunity, and I've seen this multiple times, or many times, you're going to have the opportunity to walk in and say, I can show you how to use AI agents to optimize and improve all these different processes that you are doing. And that's going to save you money, and that's going to allow you to compete with bigger companies. That's going to allow you to go up the productivity curve with AI. And me as a 22-year-old that just graduated from college working for you and implementing those things, it's going to make me more valuable to you. And it almost makes me a co-founder in some ways that might give me the opportunity for equity. And let's not forget that 62% of new jobs come from startups and small businesses. And so that's where the opportunities are. You have to, you can go and interview with the big companies, go through the process, but you're going to have to change and start looking at those small to medium-sized companies and startups that allow you to come in and use your skills that they probably don't have, because they're probably freaking out, not knowing what to do with AI.
Yeah, I like that answer a lot. I think it's quite interesting, especially because you don't say you have to be a CAS major, you have to be mathematics or an econ person. It doesn't really matter as long as you can think. And
Yeah,
so
and that's 100%. Like I've said for years, in a world where we have to train models for a lot of situations for, HRLF, you're going to have human-based training and reinforcement learning, and you need a variety of skills. There's no major foundational model that doesn't need to know a lot about Shakespeare, and it's not going to answer all the questions just by training off of what's online. As things change and, thinking skills evolve, you're going to have to do just as you said. You're going to have to be a lifelong learner and curious so you can apply those skills to people training their models or help them figure out the best way to weight them and train them.
fantastic. I'm going to take a back seat. I had asked Vlad and Natalia to ask the first two questions, and then students, if you want to ask a question, please put it into the Q&A. You can upvote, as far as I know, in the Q&A, unless something has changed again on Zoom, and we'll choose from that. Vlad, Alana, were you able to get Vlad in? And if not, I will do that.
What up, Vlad?
How's it going? Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
So really appreciate you taking the time with us today. And just a short introduction, I'm Vlad, a full-time MBA candidate at Berkeley School of Business. I've been a seasonal founder for over 10 years, and now I'm working on a defense tech startup called Omnia AI here in Silicon Valley. And because I'm focused on defense tech, it made me think of a question related to your past investments. So I made a due diligence, and in that 2018, you invested in the relativity space.
Yep.
When 3D printed rockets were not proven, and the industry wasn't getting much attention. So my question is, did you see it as a calculated risk or more of a gamble? And if you were looking at a similar early stage sector today, would a defense tech qualify?
I saw it as a gamble. There were two kids from Texas, Tim Ellis and his friend, who emailed me and gave me a pitch, and I just started nailing them with questions. And I don't really know a lot about 3D printing and the methodologies they were using, but I like their response, their quickness of response, and the depth of answers that they gave me, not just about the technology, but their understanding of the industry and their competitive analysis. So that gave me some comfort, and it wasn't a huge amount of money. The good news is they grew and grew and grew until they got acquired. The bad news is they didn't get acquired for near as much money as we all invested. But to answer your second question in terms of defense tech, it would really depend on what was presented to me, because defense tech has so many components. It could be, VR goggles, it could be drones, it could be computer vision, it's AI, it's security. There's so many elements, and they all go together. And so it's very difficult to find a niche that can scale, and a lot of folks believe they have unique technology, but it's hard to have unique technology, right? And it's more about my AI or my CV is better than your AI and CV, and we'll just race to see who gets there first. And so that's what makes it a difficult investment. So I'd have to truly know that after I did my due diligence, that there was really a moat there.
Thanks so much for that question. Alana, I'm wondering if you can have Natalia join us.
I'm here.
Fantastic. Come on in and ask your question. Vlad, we'll put you back onto the normal attendees. You're never normal. You're still special.
Hi, Mark.
Natalia.
My name is Natalia Tejado, and I'm a clean tech and solarpreneur from Mexico. Given that the nature of your company is solving a problem that normally is addressed by the government, a problem like so severe it's currently causing a government shutdown and has people suggesting that you should run for president because of your fresh perspectives. My question is this: do you believe entrepreneurs have a responsibility to step up and be a more effective force for social good than politicians? And if so, what other major areas do you see entrepreneurial activism being applicable to?
I think it's up to the individual entrepreneur. You know, if you would ask me the same question when I was 25, I would have been all about no. I've been driving around and looking at really big houses I can't afford in a car that barely runs, and I just want to, make enough to own my own time. That was my mission. At this point in my life, when I see my peers in terms of net worth, I think that's the point in time that it's really time to start considering what type of impact you can have using your entrepreneurial skills. And I think there's so many industries that are ripe for disruption that aren't expensive to disrupt, but we don't see enough entrepreneurs really bearing down and having an impact. But I think because of AI and the ability to use it as a tool to analyze any industry and come up with new ideas, I think it's going to turn back to young entrepreneurs like yourself who can leverage having these tools. I mean, you know better than I do. With AI, you have every professor ever, you have every, book ever, you have every article almost published. And so being able to take that and come up with fresh approaches to disrupting industries, I think there's never been a better time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia.
That's great. Jake Lavin?
What up, Jake?
Hey Mark, how you doing?
Good.
So I recently just turned 20 years old and I'm kind of like starting to look at like jobs and stuff. And I guess my question is, well, I work in AI startup and like I kind of do like business development there. But it's in like AI loan servicing. So it's not really like something I'm familiar with. So my question is, like when you first started off looking for like big jobs and stuff like that, did you initially go for like what you like to do, or you kind of just stuck it out at the beginning and then
Oh, I stuck it out. It was like, I always looked at it that I just spent 4 years paying to learn. And no matter what job I took, I was getting paid to learn. And I learned as an entrepreneur, I learned more from the shitty jobs I had than from the great jobs I had, because I learned what not to do. And I learned the habits of bad management and bad managers. And so even in the worst possible scenario, in a job that isn't your dream job, particularly now, like I said earlier, with AI being, an advantage that you have, just go in and learn. Like, that's the thing about, jobs now. When I was a kid, people looked, okay, you're going to work there 50 years and get a gold watch and retire and get a new golden retriever, right? Now you're a free agent all the time, right? You're just like, okay, I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to get paid to learn. It may not be the dream job to start, but if I can have an impact, I'm going to be telling people what I can do. I'm learning new skills, trying new things, which just build my resume. And if something comes along that gets me going, let's go, right? And so that's how I would approach it now. You don't need a perfect job. Now you're getting paid to learn. You just need to make sure you learn so that you can lever up to go to your next job or the next company you start.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate
You got it.
Fantastic. I'm hoping Laura Lameau, or I can go ahead and ask it. What Laura, who was not Laura, is asking is, how do you personally decide whether a company has the potential to be a great company or just a good one?
The first thing when I hear about it, if it makes me say, why didn't I think of that? That's my first indication. Then I look at it and say, what about it is unique and differentiated? That's sustainable. That gives me my second indication. Then I really don't think about addressable markets so much as a salesperson, where could I take this? What could I accomplish? Again, that is unique and differentiated, and how sustainable is that? Because I think I just use my experience to try to understand how I would sell it into whatever the market is, whether it's consumer, corporate, whatever it may be, and then try to extrapolate that into how big it would be. I'm not really big on doing, research on total addressable market. And if I capture 1% or 2%, I'm all about, is it good? Is it differentiatable? Is it sustainable? And then the other thing I always ask is, how would I kick my own ass? And what that means is, there's always going to be competition or somebody trying to put you out of business. And I want to ask myself, if this were me running this business, running a competitor, how would I kick my own ass to put myself out of business? And when I answer those questions, that just guides me through my decision-making process. And where I always tend to screw up is one of two places. The entrepreneurs, I didn't give credit enough to the entrepreneurs, and they were able to outperform the capabilities of their business. Or B, I gave them too much credit, and the entrepreneurs couldn't execute on all these issues I just mentioned.
Thank you for Laura, whoever that was who asked the question. Danush, hi.
What up, Danush?
Hi, Mark. I'm a huge fan. We
Appreciate it.
watch Shark Tank as a family all the time, so
Appreciate
we've
that.
gotten to know you and your interactions. One of the questions that I had is, it's kind of a practical question. I consider myself to be like a technical person. I'm a computer science major here at Cal, and I'm trying to delve into healthcare and biotechnology as well. I want to do a startup in that space. So what would your, practical advice be for someone who is technically skilled, but they want to translate their technical knowledge into an entrepreneurial venture that can make an impact? I know this is slightly different than the question I put into the chat.
No,
but
that's
now
okay. Don't
that,
worry about it. Don't
we're
worry
able
about it.
to-
You got to learn the
Yeah.
industry. You got to learn where you fit, right? What is it about your product that's going to be so compelling, or your service or your idea that's going to be so compelling, people can't say no? Because, excuse me, one of the big challenges entrepreneurs have, particularly doctors and tech entrepreneurs, is we kind of are too proud of our abilities, and we overestimate, we lie to ourselves effectively. And we tell ourselves, this is the best idea ever. This is the greatest thing. Nobody has done it. And what every entrepreneur in the history of entrepreneurs since the internet doesn't do is, they don't look at all the companies that went out of business. You go on Google, or now you go into an AI model, and you do deep research on this topic and everything. It comes out with a great report, and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, boy, we're going for it, right? And then you don't realize until after you get into that 73 companies have tried the exact same thing, raised a bunch of money, and failed. So you really have to do a lot of in-depth research and make sure you're not lying to yourself, right? Don't oversell yourself. Really be cogent about the whole thing.
That makes sense, Mark. And how do I make sure my idea is, how do I evaluate the entrepreneurial element of my idea, rather than
You
just it
talk
being
to
like a,
people who would be your buyers.
okay.
Who would your customers be,
Okay.
or who would invest in your research? Who would invest in your science? There's going to be somebody that it's a value proposition to. Go talk to them,
Okay.
and just see, and they'll be able to give you guidance. And the thing about moving into new areas like that, or trying to create new ideas, the people who are in the industry love to hear them. Don't be one of the people that's afraid of sharing the idea because you're afraid someone's going to steal it. Because if it's going to be stolen, if someone else could do it, they probably already would have done it. Now, the one thing I would say as a qualifier, right?
Sure.
In an era of AI, where all the foundational models are training on everything they can find on the internet,
Mhm.
you have to paywall or hide anything advanced that you're putting out there.
Okay.
And I think this applies not just to people starting industries. I have the same, when I talk to CEOs of hospitals or research hospitals or scientists, I'm like, the days of publish or perish are over, right? Because the minute you produce that and publish it and it's available to the public, it's training a model. And the minute somebody asks a question related to what you just published, you're not getting credit for it, most likely, because people aren't clicking on the source button all the time. And now it becomes part of the model, and it's training ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, right? And you kind of lose control of it. So you want to try to retain control. And what's going to end up happening, like you're starting to see, like Anthropic had to pay like $1.2 billion to content sources. You're going to see IP owners start to negotiate deals with the foundational models because they need that IP to compete. Because if you're trying to be open evidence and you're trying to be the leader in medical information, but you don't have these 5 leading doctors or scientists and you don't have access to their research, you can't win that battle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
Yeah.
so part of, I think, is another opportunity for disruption for anybody out there listening is aggregating AI by vertical, right? Because there's within biology, within medicine, there's 1,000 different verticals, right? And being able to aggregate IP from as many different sources and saying, I'm going to go to Anthropic, I'm going to go to Meta, I'm going to go to Gemini, I'm going to go to ChatGPT, I'm going to go to XAI, and I'm going to put this out to bid. Because your model can't be the true foundational model within this realm unless you have access to this data and science. And so I think that's going to change how people approach models, or you may create your own model because there's going to be millions and millions and millions and millions of models. And it may be, okay, it's Tanusha's model that everybody goes to for this.
That makes sense. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mark.
My pleasure.
Hey, Kevin. Unmute. There you go.
Hi, Mark.
What up, Kevin?
I'm Kevin here. I'm an MBA student at Berkeley Haas. So my question is this one. What's the one thing that you wish you knew at your 20s that would have saved you years?
To be nice. When I was first starting, it was kind of the attitude was, and I didn't really know any better, right? And so when I was just starting, I thought I had to be a hard ass. And bam, 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 let me tell you what I need and let's go, go, go. Well, the energy was good. The piss and vinegar was good. A lot of times not knowing what I didn't know was really good, but I think I could have been a lot nicer. And my first company, we had no turnovers. Out of 80 employees, I had 1 leave and they came back. So it wasn't horrible, but I think I would have been even more effective and we could have gotten even bigger if I would have been nicer.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you, Kevin.
Carson.
Okay. Hi, I'm Carson.
What up, Carson?
Hey, and that was pretty similar to my question. What would you have wanted to know earlier in your journey? So kind of off the spot right here, I'm curious what skill sets you think will be really valuable as AI, becomes increasingly usable and prevalent, as opposed to, like industrial revolution, right? And then being able to write software code, but like that skill, obviously, as we keep going, eventually you'll be able to code in human language. So what skill sets do you think will be super valuable in the AI
Critical
era?
thinking. Critical thinking. 100%. On the business side of the world, the critical thinking element is going to be being able to, like, if you ever watch Shark Tank, like my skills, they call me the computer. The other sharks would call me the computer, right? Because I literally, you could tell me the first 5 minutes of a business and I can tell you exactly how they make money, where their roadblocks are, where their challenges are, and where their paths to profitability are. And the reason I've been able to be disruptive so many times is I can look at processes and figure it out how to break them down to become more profitable and more economic, set.
Totally.
Yeah. So in any event, having that skill set so that you can take your AI skills and walk into any business and say, you just let me interview people, you just let me talk to people. I'll write up the agent. It'll take me 10 minutes. I'll test it. I know how to use MCP. We'll be able to go and connect with anybody that you need. And we'll save lots of money. And then eventually, like I had this guy I've been helping these kind of questions, and he was working at a marketing agency, and he was like, Mark, they're too dependent on me, and I want to do this for some of our clients and make more money. I'm like, go back to them and tell them to keep you. They're going to have to pay you more money and give you equity. He goes, okay, I'll try. And they did, right? And his whole skill set, like you said, it's all going to wash out in terms of being able to write code and everything, but being able to critically think and understand processes is everything.
Totally. So I guess real quick, building on that would kind of allude to that, when you're in your 20s, when you haven't built a company yet, something really important would be to chase perspective shattering experiences. And then I could put myself in more other people's shoes,
Yeah, like
and develop different mental models.
I was one of these guys that just read every book about business and every business person I could find. I mean, that's all I wanted to learn. I love to
Mhm.
read about scam businesses, you know, because the scam businesses tell you where things go wrong. And that taught me about different processes. It was great. I didn't know it at the time. It was just like reading murder mysteries to me, only business murders.
Yeah.
Read as much as I could. And now, you know, with YouTube and everything, just as much as you can absorb, because y'all are smart, right? It's
Hmm.
business at its heart is really, really, really easy. You know, you find a product or service, you find somebody who needs it, you produce it in a way you can make money, and you keep your costs down, and you keep on going, right? And the more you can optimize, the more you can remix, the further ahead you get. And so it's just about putting yourself in positions to be able to learn. And then one day it'll come to you. It'll be like, okay, I got this angle. I can walk in anywhere and figure it out. Because businesses are easy. They're all pretty much the same.
Hmm. Totally. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Carson.
Tamara.
I'm a huge fan of you, and thank you so much for being here with us
Thanks,
today.
Tamra.
Very insightful. My question for you is, if you could replay your entrepreneurial journey, is there a risk you wish you had taken earlier, or one that you wish you avoided altogether?
Not really. Like all the risks added up. Like I screwed up so many times. I heard no so many times. I was called a moron so many times, you know, that this wouldn't work, that wouldn't work. But I just kept on telling myself every no got me closer to a yes. And all I had to do was get it right one time, you know? And so and honestly, I never Damon John on Shark Tank calls it the power of broke. Like I didn't have a whole lot, right? I was sleeping on the floor. I had 5 roommates in a 3-bedroom apartment when I started my first company. I had nothing to lose. So there was nothing that was a risk to me. Like my first car in Dallas, I literally found it on the side of the road, found the pink sheets, the license and everything inside of it, called the bank, and they let me take over the payments. You know, now that stuff doesn't really happen now, but the point being that when you're young, it's not a risk. You know, it's just about taking the opportunity and taking the chance, figuring out whatever you can figure out and going from there.
Perfect. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Tom. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Well, it's tricky to hear. I'm muted. So let's see if we can do this with you all in the room. Antonio, let's see how it
What
sounds.
up, boys? What's going on?
Very nice to meet you, Mark. We're all from Spain. We're here at the UC Berkeley. It's very nice to meet you. And we wanted to ask you, you obviously get a lot of questions and people pitch you every day. So what's something people always miss that you'd like to hear and that you really want to see on the pitches and you never see?
Competitive analysis. Show me why you're better. And not just like they have, 6% market share. We're trying to get 8, their price. What makes them tick, right? What do they have that's unique that you need to know in order to beat them? Because if you can't say that and put it on paper so I understand it, you probably can't do it so you understand it. And if you don't understand it, you're not going to succeed.
All right.
And Mark, which is your favorite structure for a pitch?
I don't have a favorite, right? One underlying point that I think is critical when I listen to a pitch is, can they sell? Particularly with tech entrepreneurs, and young entrepreneurs, they get hesitant. I'm not a salesperson, right? I don't know if I can really sell this. Whatever your product or service is, if you aren't so happy and excited to tell everybody about it, and you don't believe that everybody you talk to will benefit from it, then you're not in the right business and you're not the right person. Because the companies I've seen fail are because I hear it all the time. Yeah, we're going to go hire a sales force. We're going to go hire this. We're going to go hire a consultant. If I only could raise more money, I could do more marketing, which means I don't want to be the one selling. And so unless you're able to raise a ton of money, you're going to have to be the best salesperson at the start of your business. And so that salesperson, particularly if it's a Shark Tank type business, has got to love to sell their product or service.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. See you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Mark, I just want to be somewhat kind as well. Do you want to ask the students a question and take just a little bit of a break? Because it's like a one-on-one game here.
No, that's okay. I would ask you a question though. How do you guys view AI right now? Like what is its impact on your decision making and how you approach today and your future?
If you all can put that in the chat, that would be awesome. And Jonah, as you're thinking about how to ask your question to Mark, you want to see if you can think of an answer that you'd want to start with?
Sure. Hi, Mark, first of all, huge fan.
What up, John?
In terms of AI, I mean, it's definitely scary and exciting. I think it's going to be a huge disruptor, obviously, in a lot of different industries.
Why do you think it's scary?
It's, simultaneously going to impact so many different parts of our lives in ways that not a single person can kind of, I guess, like comprehend. Yeah. So, like you can be focused on so many things at once, and there could be something happening completely off to the side that completely comes in and affects and changes your life. So I think there's just a lot of things to be
But
keeping
doesn't that
track
happen
of.
with all new technologies? Now I know
Yes,
there's
but
gonna be
I
more
think to this
predictable.
scale, it's very different.
Yeah, I mean, like I've been around for a long time, obviously, and every new technology has scared the shit out of somebody. And it scared the shit out of, the internet scared everybody. Mobile phones scared the shit out of everybody. The app store scared the shit out of everybody. And I agree that AI is a lot more unpredictable,
Yeah.
but to be in my 20s when everybody else is freaking out about AI, oh my God, that's like a door to run through. And they're giving you the football, you got all the blockers, and there's nobody in front of you. Because while it's maybe a little bit scary to you, it's terrifying to everybody else. And when it's terrifying for everybody else, whenever there's change, that's when the most opportunity occurs. And there's going to be ongoing change with AI. Like you said, it's going to, this is the hardest technology to predict what's going to happen in 3, 5, 7, 10, 20, 50 years. But damn, you're the one that's got that time, right? And so if you put in the time to learn this stuff, oh shit. Like I would, if I was 22 doing this stuff, I would be going nuts, right? I would be learning this stuff and I would be like going into every opportunity I could because you get to refresh. Okay, got that one wrong, refresh, right? Got that one wrong because all this stuff is right in front of you.
Yeah. So my actual question was, my actual question was really just like, what does your daily routine and diet look like? But in addition to that, I do want to ask, as someone who works in more creative industries, how do you think AI is going to be affecting those industries, and what kind of things do you think I can look to position myself in a way that won't be negatively impacted by?
Are you on the creative side of the world? Have you tried to
I work in the music industry and mostly in the music industry.
Cool. So a couple things on my diet. I try to watch what I eat. I actually write everything down in MyFitnessPal because the older you get, the harder this stuff is. If you follow me on Instagram at mcuban, you'll see all my workout videos. So I try to still hoop, try to stay in shape, all that kind of stuff. In terms of the creative industry, everybody in the creative industry thinks they're creative, right? Not everybody is, but if you are truly creative, AI, VO, Nano Banana isn't just about like little AI baby videos and gorillas and Downsy, right? It's about making creative people more creative. You can iterate so often and so quickly. Like now, even now, when you're doing editing and you're using Final Cut or whatever, right? It takes time. You're going through and you're cutting, pasting, you're doing all this stuff. AI just makes it so much faster, and you're playing with it, that it takes longer for you to wait for it to come back. And by that time, you already have your edits ready to go and your updates to the prompt and what you're going to do. You've never been able to do that before. And it's only going to get better and better. So it allows you to focus on your creativity and to iterate 1,000 times and to duplicate and compare, A/B test. How often could you ever A/B test, A/B/C/D/E test different creative stuff without it costing a fortune and taking forever? Now, bam, 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 you turn that stuff around. Does it help me with not a creative bone in my body? No. But you and anybody who's creative, oh man, it's a godsend. You're going to be so much more creative. But it also means there's going to be more people competing with you because now they have all these tools available too. So your creativity's got to be really good, and you've got to be able to try to zig and zag and go against the grain.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
Sanjali, let's take your question next.
Hi, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. I had
Sure.
2 questions. The first one was you've disrupted the pharmacy industry in the US with cost plus drugs. I'm curious how you think international markets, maybe looking up north, our neighbors in Canada with universal healthcare, but they have fragmented coverage. Is there room for a tech-driven pharmacy model? How do healthcare startups reach that kind of success outside the US? And my second question was, what's the best advice you got that you ignored? And what was the uncharted path you recommend and took in its place?
Okay, so the best advice I got was when I was just coming out of school, and it wasn't an internship, but effectively it was. And I'm always go, go, go. You might be able to tell, right? And there was a guy named Larry Manaugh who sat me down and said, let me just tell you a little hint that every time you sit in a meeting and you're taking notes, this is back when you would write notes, I want you to write in the upper right-hand side of your notebook, listen, because you don't listen. That was a long time ago, and I still don't listen. I mean, I do a better job now, and I still literally to this day, years later, write listen up in the top right of any time I'm taking notes. And how it impacted my path, I'm sure it slowed me down, right? Slowed me down quite a bit. Now, what was our first question again?
Actually,
my
Mark,
first-
can I just ask one little,
Sure.
like, do you have any tricks to help you listen better besides writing that in the corner?
Yeah, I remember why I'm with the people I'm with. You know, I try to remind myself, you know, why am I in this meeting? I'm not here to waste my time. And if I'm not here to waste my time, somebody's adding value and I better pay attention because I catch myself doing that a lot because I don't want to be in a position where I miss something. Because particularly in a technical or business meeting, particularly when, you know, there's people battling it out for whatever reason, if there's multiple people with different opinions, I really have to focus. And that's a great question, Vicky, because it really, I found myself finding ways to remind myself why I'm there.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. My first question was, I was curious about international markets, maybe
Oh, yeah,
like
that's right, the pharmacy. So particularly up north in Canada. So Canada's got some really funky rules when it comes to medications, right? Put aside the universal healthcare stuff, right? It is and it isn't because all the provinces have their own budgets and only what fits in their budget. And then, you know, you can get it and it's great pricing and it's a great system, but not everything fits in there. And what they do with their pharmacy system is kind of different than here. Here, the rebate, the big pharmacy benefit managers negotiate rebates with brand manufacturers to try to make more money. There, it's the pharmacies that get all the rebates, right? And so we actually looked into opening up a cost plus drugs in Canada, but it would have been impossible for us to get a license. And which is crazy because we get inquiries all the time. Excuse me, those drugs that are not covered, particularly higher priced generics, they want to come down to us and buy from cost plus drugs because we're cheaper than, you know, most of the developed world. But all these rules protect those generic manufacturers and brand manufacturers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sanjali.
All right, the Bernardo gang.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for joining us. I'm
What up,
Berkeley,
guys?
Gustavo, and Juan Pablo. We're from Mexico. We're actually studying abroad here at Berkeley, and we are working on a project focused on optimizing human resources. And our question is, if automation can free people from repetitive tasks, how critical do you think it is for companies to redesign the roles so that human creativity becomes the true competitive advantage and give employees the opportunity to focus on what they do best?
Oh, I think that's brilliant. Yeah, I think it's very, very important because of all the things a model can do, it can only say, I don't know probabilistically, right? It depends on the threshold you say above which you can't give an answer, below or above which you can give an answer and below which you can't, right? When you're dealing with humans, they don't want to be given a probabilistic response, right? They want somebody that understands the full context. And for the foreseeable future, AI is only multimodal with pictures and text. You're not, you know, as hard as robotics are working on CV that captures context and worldview and everything, it ain't close to be ready yet. And so having that personal impact so that employees can talk to customers, vendors, each other and understand what's going on, it's critical. It's critical. Someone's got to be able to say, I don't know. And it's never going to be a model that does it with full confidence.
Yeah.
Does that make
Thank
sense?
you so much. Yes. Yes. Thanks. Thank you, Mark.
Bahar.
Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for having the time to speak with us. My name is Bahar, and I'm a junior here at the Haas School of Business. And my question is, when you're looking into a pitch, what do you look for beyond the pitch? Are there any characteristics or traits that you look for in the people you invest in?
Yeah, some entrepreneurs, like I said, one, they have to be able to sell. They have to love their product so much. They're all about it. But two, it's always a huge red flag when somebody can't take criticism. It's a natural response, and I would do this all the time when I was younger too, right? Mark, I think this and this and this about the business. No, you're wrong because da 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 da. The minute you're telling an investor, no, you're wrong in however way you say it, 99% chance you've lost and you're not going to get the investment. If you say to them, tell me more so I can learn and I can be smarter about this, now the potential investor is lighting up, right? Because you're respecting their opinion and you want more feedback. And that's a good indication. That's how you're going to be going forward.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mark, tell me more is my secret to listening better. It's and the name of a book of from a friend of mine. All right, Sophia, do you want to come in next?
Yeah. Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer our questions. So my question is that if you launch broadcast.com today, would you lean into short form video content the way that like TikTok and Instagram Reels have done, or would you try something different? And how would you evaluate the various growth loops to scale that business today?
So I definitely would be different, obviously. I don't want to be what TikTok is. I don't want to try to just be about the algorithm. I'd want it to be more integrated with real life because I think there's going to be so much AI generated video on social media that it will no longer be social and it will no longer be personal. You've already seen it go away from dances and fun stuff to news and people trying to be selling products or influence really hard, right? And so I think the trend is going to be so much AI video that people are going to want to find ways to get together, and it's hard. Like you already telling yourself, okay, either I got to put my phone down or I got to get out of the dorm room or I got to go do something. And people older than you have it worse, right? Because it's harder after you come home from work, you're tired, etc. So I think social is going to be more about, hey, we're going to have a get together. Like I just invested in this company that does daytime discos.
Yeah.
Right. And it's going to be more in real life experiences because that personal connection becomes more and more important as AI becomes more prevalent.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And how would you evaluate like the different growth channels as you scaled that business today?
Just experiment. Try different things. Like what happens at UCB is going to be completely different than what happens at Indiana University or UCLA. And so I'd want to try to match it because that's the beauty of AI, right? Because I can put up 10 different versions of the application, even though they all intersect in some way. So I can try version A, B, C, D, E, and then just have the events all end up in the same place and just find out what worked best. Because now with Lovable, with Replit, all these different, Claude, you can create an app just like that. And then once you have your app and you've run it and you're ready to put in the apps, you create another version and another version. Now the App Store will eventually figure it out and put limitations. But until then, they can all have different names. But if they end up in the same place, then you can learn what works best.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Lilia.
Hi, Mark. I'm Lilia from Mexico.
Hi, Lilia.
Thank you so much. Okay, my question is, if I have a business idea that's meant to be regenerative, what's the best way to balance profit with impact? Like to make a business that gives back to society, but still remains sustainable and successful?
So first, get the profitability. Once you're profitable, you have all your options. Worrying about sustainability, worrying about impact first makes it more difficult because you're just introducing cost structure and limitations. But if you're asking yourself, what's the best way to have impact? You already have the good heart, right? Your heart's already in the right place. So getting there and creating a business that's profitable, doesn't have to be extremely profitable, but profitable enough for you to continue to reinvest and grow your ideas, allows you to get to the point of having an impact.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Here's a softball one from Aditya.
My name is Adi. This is kind of like a fun question. My question was like Cooper Flag or Luka Doncic, and like, how do you think the Mavs are gonna do this year?
You know, I got to go with Coop because he's my guy, but I love Donka. I love Donka. I love Luka. But I'm not going to tell you when I called him Donka. But anyways, they're both great people, and but I think if we stay healthy, the Mavs are going to be good.
Yeah, I'm a Cavs fan, so hopefully we'll win it this year.
Go Timberwolves.
Thank you.
Wait, I have a question.
Oh.
Do you think the Mavs are going to make a deep run this season, though? Like with AD?
No, I think they're going to suck. No, of course I think we are.
Like,
bro, we're undefeated.
I'm predicting a good second round, maybe conference finals, but
I'll take it. You get to the conference finals, anything is possible.
you guys got it. You guys got it.
Appreciate y'all.
It's great meeting you.
You too.
Fantastic. Thanks, you guys. I actually am wondering, one of the questions that we had before while we're getting somebody else in is like, what makes you say yes to this group that you talked about, who was doing space related?
Relatively, yeah, because I knew they were early. They were local. I was impressed by the guys. They weren't walking in asking for $20 million. Literally, the first investment was $750K. And I thought that was the risk reward was high. And, you know, every time I went back to them and asked them questions and asked for more details, they gave me detailed responses. There was no inhibition at all. And you know, the craziest thing, they got up to a $4 billion valuation before things kind of went sideways. You know how many times I met with them? I never, to this day, have still never met them. And that was okay by me because we were able to communicate via email, not even Zooms, via email nonstop. You know, if I emailed them, they were emailing me back right away. They had started to understand how I communicated and the best way to get me details and information. And that worked better, made me a lot more time efficient and made them a lot more time efficient. But obviously it didn't work perfectly. Otherwise, you know, they'd still run the company.
Yeah, but that's pretty fascinating. Fantastic. Shreya, it'd be great to hear from you.
Hey, Mark, how are you doing?
Good, Shreya. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. And thank you so much for patiently answering all our questions.
I'm happy to do it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm a data science student here at UC Berkeley. And kind of what I really appreciate about the data science program here is that they teach us about all these amazing benefits of using AI, but they also teach us the ethical complications of how AI can kind of disproportionately affect different people and jobs. And kind of just from your standpoint as a seasoned industry professional, I was kind of wondering, how do you navigate risk and how utilizing AI in companies can affect different kinds of people?
I mean, it's going to affect everybody. There's nobody it's not going to affect. And so it really comes down to what is the result of the AI the company is using? Is it making you more productive so that employees can do more? And if employees can do more, the company can grow. And if the company can grow because employees can do more, they can hire back more people that are just in different types of capacities than they originally were. And so I'm not, one of the people that are just extremely concerned about job loss on a macro basis. I think there'll be creative destruction, just like we've seen in many industries. But I think the productivity enhancements and improvements are going to make a difference. And I'll tell you one other thing I heard that initially was counterintuitive, but then it made perfect sense. Excuse me. The birth rates are declining rapidly. And, we don't produce enough babies in this country, and around the developed world, it's the same problem. And so if we're not producing enough future workers, we need AI to produce enough economic output in order to compensate for the decline in birth rates in the Western nations. And so while shorter term, there's going to be some painful disruptions, I think longer term, it'll not only balance out, it'll be a net positive.
Thank you so much. I never thought about it from the perspective of declining birth rates and, how AI could compensate for that. So that was amazing insight. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Shreya. Yangji.
Hey Mark, I'm Yongzi or YZ.
Yongzi.
I come from Singapore. I'm a huge fan. I watch Shark Tank a lot with my girlfriend, and we just talk about business all the time.
I appreciate it.
My question for you is, you've always considered yourself as the luckiest guy in the world, and I would consider like luck to play a huge factor in my life as well. My question for you is what are the kind of like nature and nurture factors behind your luck in your luck
Yeah,
journey?
it's a great question. I'm one of those guys who thinks life is half random. There's things that we can control. We can control our effort. We can control our approach. We can control our curiosity. We can control how much we learn. But there's certain shit that's just going to happen, right? You just don't know. And so, where that happens, people talk about when, preparation meets opportunity, that's all well and good. But there's just going to be times when that goes your way, you just got to say thank you. Like, I was born at a time that got me to starting a company, starting the streaming industry, right when the internet stock market was exploding. And if it wasn't exploding right at that point in time, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. You wouldn't even know who I am, because broadcast.com may not have gone public. It may, the streaming industry might be entirely different right now. But it happened. And then there's other situations where, companies didn't work out for any number of reasons, and it was bad luck. That's just the way it goes. You've just got to recognize your circumstances and adapt accordingly. If that answers your question.
Yeah, that does. Can I add on one more question? Sure. Follow up to that. So when do you know to go all in, and when do you know sort of to hedge your bets?
Well, if you're starting a company and you're hedging your bets, you've already lost. And if you're in terms of going all in, if you're starting a company and you're not all in, you've already lost, right? You've got to always be all in. Now, the key is, when do you start and why? And if you're not sure, you're not ready. If you think that something all of a sudden is going to explain everything to you and define a path for you, you're not ready. If you're confident and you know that what you're doing and what your approach is well thought out. There's an old school basketball coach by the name of Bobby Knight. And he did this interview one time that caught my attention. And he said, everybody's got the will to win, but it's only those with the will to prepare that do win. And what that means, obviously, is you got to do the work up front if you want to win, whether it as an athlete in sports or whether in business, because business is the ultimate sport. It really is. Like, I wrote this little book called How to Win at the Sport of Business. It's like 64 pages. I just wanted to be really quick and easy to convey to people that, well, a game has 48 minutes in the NBA, and the exact season, and there's trades and everything. In business, you're competing 24/7 by 365. And if you're not ready for that, then you're not ready to start your business.
All right, that's perfect. Yeah, thank you so much, Mark.
My pleasure.
That is pretty darn perfect. Gabriel Sanchez and company.
Hi, Mark. So our question was that we had a debate, and we're thinking about how much of the success do you think that comes from hard work, and how much do you think that comes from luck, and if there is any other component that affects
Yeah,
into
a little
the
bit like I said
success.
before, hard work can make you a millionaire. Hard work can make you worth 10, 15, 20 million dollars. Luck makes you a billionaire. Because like right now, you see 7 companies dominating the stock market. All the other public companies that are being run right now, whose stocks are barely moving over the last 2 years, they're not dumb. They're working hard, but all the money is being attracted towards AI and data centers, et cetera. And so it's harder for them to get to that next level. That's luck. The fact that you were born, that, those magic 7 companies were in that position when AI just took off and, Gen AI really exploded, that's luck.
Thanks.
And the other components of the success?
Hard work is important, but scale comes from luck, like above a certain level. You've got to know your stuff. You've got to work hard. There's times when people get lucky, but unless you're doing something that's outrageously unique, you've got competition. And you've got to ask yourself, are they outworking you? That's what I used to say to myself all the time. I'd be exhausted, but I was sleeping on the floor, and I'm like, is somebody out, are my competitors outworking me? I can't let that happen, right? Because I have too much to lose. And so I wasn't worried about luck at the time. I was just worried about growing my business and trying to get to a point where I could pay my bills and I was successful and financially prepared, ready to go. So hard work is critically important. Super scale is luck.
Thank you, Mark.
Guys,
Thanks.
Welcome.
Tanish, you want to go next?
Sure, I'll go next if that's okay. So, hey, Mark, I want to say, first of all, I watch Shark Tank a lot and I'm a huge fan of Shark Tank.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and on top of that, I have a question like for all the guys who are teenagers and entrepreneurs. I'm a teen entrepreneur too, I'm 19. So what advice do you have for my generation, Gen Z, and like teen entrepreneurs in general? Like they want to succeed, they want to do it, but then
Just
they're
go for
scared
it.
to.
It's no different. Like now I'm the oldest walking into the room, but I used to be the youngest walking in the room, and they were like double take when I'd walk in. I'm like, what the hell are you doing here? And that was my power. That was my superpower because the expectations weren't high. And the fact that I knew what I was talking about and I was prepared knocked them over, and they wanted to help me more. They wanted to work with me more because it's easier to develop a strong relationship once somebody gets to trust you.
I see. That makes sense. So you have to like keep working. You have to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
no one says there's no straight line when you're an entrepreneur. There's always things, that are going to be crazy. And it's the fact that they get crazy is what allows you to be successful. If it was all just easy, everybody would do it and there would be no rewards.
Okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. Totally tracks.
Tanish, will you tell Mark a little bit about what you're doing?
Yeah, actually, I run a podcast where I interview a lot of leaders, a lot of founders, and also a lot of Cal alumni as well. It's called the Limitless Minds Podcast, which has like, I believe, over 100,000 followers. And
Congrats.
thank you. And I also like run a startup on the side called Mara Einstein, which is an edtech startup that teaches teens and youth about entrepreneurship, AI, and how to manage their finances. I know as a teen entrepreneur, when I was 16, I went through a lot, like to be able to do it as a teenager, because obviously as a teen, it's not as easy as when you're an adult to launch a startup. So like I had to go through.
You're right.
Like a lot of,
it's easier. It's easier to launch a startup, but congratulations. I think it sounds amazing, both of them. But you already know that.
yeah. Would you be willing to be on my podcast too?
Maybe get my email from Vicky and we'll go from there.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark.
As I always like to say, a founder wants to be found. It's not that hard, but we'll talk about it later. All right. Ria, you want to ask a question with your crew?
Yeah, hi Mark. I'm Ria. Just to give you a little background, I'm a third-year data science student at Berkeley. And throughout your experience and throughout, I guess, your time in the industry, you talked a lot about the importance about working everyone. I mean, even here, you're talking about work versus luck. And I'm sure this is a sentiment, Berkeley has a reputation where everyone works really, really hard and overworks themselves. And so I'm sure that's a sentiment shared by majority of the students here. Are there any practices or things that you implement into your daily life that kind of help you prevent burnout or help keep you grounded, while still being in the grind set?
First of all, I have 3 teenagers effectively, and they just abuse the shit out of me. So that keeps me grounded. 2, I like to work out, so I'll get out there, and hoop or I take this HIIT fitness class, and that's where I just kind of de-stress. And then Mavs games, you see me yelling at the refs and everything, that de-stressed me as well. So everybody's got to find something that just diverts their attention. It could be music, it could be art, it could be sports, working out, whatever it may be. But you do have to have that. Otherwise, you can get in your own head and drive yourself crazy.
Thank you so much. I totally agree. I think it's really important to, even now, we're approaching midterm season and everything else. And it's having certain practices and certain things, whether it's for me, it's reading or watching TV or hanging out with my friends. But, having certain things to keep you grounded, I think is so incredibly important and keep
100%. Thanks, guys.
Nice that you all are in front of, I guess, your sorority poster there. Mohammed, would you like to go next?
Yeah. Hi, Mark. Thanks so much for being with us today. I just wanted to ask, you met a ton of people with all kinds of personalities, sharks, dreamers, and even Mr. Wonderful. What's one personality trait you've seen that almost every successful person had, and no matter the industry?
Curiosity. You know, even Mr. Wonderful likes to learn. Shocking to me, but you know, he's always, you know, learning and reading, just like all of us are. You know, and every single successful entrepreneur, because business is always changing. There's no constant except for change. And if you're going to be able to adapt and stay ahead, if you're not learning, if you're not curious and by trade learning, you've already lost.
Thanks, Mohammed. And
Thanks, Mohammed.
Claire, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, hey Mark, I'm Claire. I'm a sophomore studying cognitive science here. Thanks again. I know everyone said thanks, but seriously, like this is so
Thank you.
cool that you joined us. I think everyone appreciates it so much. So thanks for
Appreciate it.
I just noticed, like, from watching Shark Tank and from having you on the Zoom, it's so remarkable how quickly your brain works and how you can communicate with so many different people and how effectively you communicate.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. How did you learn to communicate so effectively with so many different kinds of people? And how do you feel like that's impacted your career?
That's a really interesting question. When I first started off, my first real company was called Micro Solutions, and we were a systems integrator. And this is in the early days of PCs and local area networks when people didn't understand any of that. And so I had to be able to walk into a company, put myself in their shoes. It might have been a shoe store, it might have been a bank, it might have been a law firm, it might have been a jewelry store. And I had to immediately sit down and think to myself, if I were running this business, how would I implement technology to their benefit? How can I make them more profitable? How can I make them more productive? And that got me into being able to ask them questions. Tell me about this process. Tell me about how you do that. And just translating how I would apply the technology. And that got me going in how I communicate with people. And then obviously being on Shark Tank taught me a lot too, because, you know, when someone came in and pitched me, Mr. Wonderful wanted to take them out behind the barn and shoot them and all that stuff. But like, I always wanted to respect the entrepreneur unless they were scamming us, right? And as long as they were respectful, I wanted to try to give some value back to them because they had put their whole life on the line to get there. And this may be one of the most important moments in their business life. And so I always wanted to be able to communicate with them and try to convey to them some piece of value that they could take away with them, even if they didn't get a deal.
Amazing. So like reframing, kind of putting yourself in the other person's shoes and then like
Always.
respect no matter what, essentially.
No matter what, right? Because being able to reframe a question and put yourself in the other person's shoes is everything. Everything. That guides my entire career. When it came to costplusdrugs.com, like, what is it about a person that can't afford their medications? What are they going through? Why is it that there's some people that end up in line at a pharmacy and then have to turn away when they find out they can't afford the price, or they misunderstood what was going on? Something leads to that. If I were them, what got me to that point? And then how can I correct that? How can I undo it? And that's exactly what led us to starting Cost Plus Drugs.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Claire. Appreciate it.
Mark, I'm super conscious of your time, and in a way, I'd like to give you a gift of a wee bit of time back.
Okay.
If that's okay, I'm going to go ahead and share what we do in class is we do feedback forms. And
Okay.
so it's so handy that the first three letters of your last name are
Right.
CUB. So we're like, go Bears. What I'd love everybody to do in the chat is put in your first comment for Mark. I'll share feedback on our feedback form when I get that tomorrow morning. I usually try to do it within 24 hours. Mark, is there anything that you would like to leave the students of UC Berkeley with in terms of things that you think are important for them?
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, first, thank you guys for being here. I really enjoyed it too. I learned a lot, and just hearing the questions teaches me a lot because it tells me what kids in school today are trying to deal with. But I always try to recommend to every recent college grad, current college students, just look around you. Every single thing in the room you're in right now that's not organic, it was somebody's idea. One day, you know, it didn't exist, and the next day someone had this idea and turned it into the product that you see right now. Don't let anything stop you. there's always room for new ideas. There's always room to be an entrepreneur. And this country depends on it. You know, we don't hear a lot about entrepreneurs anymore. Maybe in Silicon Valley and on the West Coast you do, but throughout the middle of the country, entrepreneurs now are underappreciated. And I think you guys with your ideas and the opportunities in front of you, your ability to take AI and take it in the directions you want, it really is the future of our country. And I think, you know, we're going to owe you a debt of gratitude for the things that you do. So don't be afraid. Doesn't matter how many times you fail. You only got to be right one time, and then everybody can tell you how lucky you are.
Mark, I can't let you get off without asking you to do something that's not terribly comfortable, which is putting on that cowl hat.
Oh my God, it doesn't fit me, but I'll put it on for you.
And maybe if we, actually it fits you very well. It looks
Yeah.
fantastic. Maybe if you all want to get a picture, I know that.
Oh no, come on, we ain't going.
Well, oh yeah, oh, I see. Oh, that's fine. Oh, I love it. Mark, thank you for spending this time, especially considering your throat. I look forward to another time. I wish you and your family all the best.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody. I really enjoyed it.
Take good care.
Thank you, you too.